You remove the context and make it about something that is nowhere in their mind. That's why it's fraudulent. It's also fraudulent
They did not interpret the Messiah ben David properly in the very beginning anyway. That's why they missed their Messiah.
Oh, so so that would discount your usage of their prophecy to begin with. So if Messiah ben David is a false usage, you can't use Messiah ben Joseph to prove you, dummy. You just undercut yourself.
Yes, I can. Because
that's a double standard. You just refuted yourself.
Jay, we know better.
We know better. You literally just said that because you said that the Jews were wrong about Messiah ben David, and they misinterpreted. Shut up! Shut up! You just. All right, this is too stupid. He literally just said the Jews are not trustworthy because their interpretation of Messiah ben David is wrong. Oh, but I'm going to use Messiah ben Joseph out of context because that one's right, but it's not what they thought. This is so crazy. This is the exact same thing as the Mohammedans saying that the Old Testament is predicting Muhammad. But wait a minute, that's all corrupted. No, but the Muhammad tells me that it was predicting Muhammad. Now we can talk about whatever you guys want: geopolitics, papacy, church history, Mormonism, Protestantism. I've invited there have been many Mormon invites today. All the Mormons, because Mormons are popping up everywhere. I don't know where this is. It's like a year ago, 2 years ago, is Black Hebrew Israelites popping up everywhere. Now suddenly Mormons are popping up everywhere. And, all of these are really just insane cults. I don't know how else to say it. I'm not trying to be mean and offend people, but that's just these are like next level crazy stuff. I've literally got multiple comments, multiple Mormon apologists telling me there's nothing wrong with retroactively writing yourself into a text to predict yourself. That's crazy, dude. How can anyone be that crazy? I don't know. Like, it's a special gift to be that crazy, doubling down on the crazy. That's like meta. You talented, dog. You a damn superstar crazy if you're doing that shit. That's just you get an award. You get awards. So you hit request to speak, you come up, I will bring you to the microphone, and you hit unmute, and you can it doesn't have to be Mormons, because we probably won't have any Mormons show up, but Jubal Cain. Get that Jubal Cain up in here, like that Masonic stuff. Get that Masonic stuff. Jubal Cain. Jamie don't like that Zigger laugh. She's in there. What's up, dude?
Hey. So, about the Joseph Smith adding himself into the Bible, it's because the canon is open. So it's possible for him to do that. It's always open.
So you think the open canon means that you can retroactively add yourself to make yourself into a predicted prophet thousands of years later?
Well, if divine revelation is involved, then it's possible.
You don't see the problem with that on its face?
Well, the apostles were prophets. So
this is what I don't understand about Mormons is like, you don't see that that's totally a different situation.
No.
Okay. The Old Testament, when it has a messianic prophecy, for example, it's not New Testament people adding that into the Old Testament or reading it in. It's the Old Testament prophets in their minds, meaning I'm writing about the future Messiah who will come out of Bethlehem, son of David, Jesus Christ. That's a prophecy. If I add to the book of Genesis at the end, let's say I add on to after Joseph Smith's add-ons, and he shall come after Joseph Smith, Mr. J. Dyer. You don't see how stupid and fraudulent that is.
I see where you're getting at, but here. So there's a distinction. So apostles, their roles were part of the unfolding of the revelation of God. Whereas Joseph Smith, he's the restoration of the prophecies.
I know you believe that, but what I'm pointing to shows that it's a fraudulent situation because one of the prophecies that is cited in Nephi is his own addition about himself. Do you believe that any text of Genesis prior to Joseph Smith had the extra sections about him?
Well, not that we know of. So that's why he came to restore.
How would it be a restoration if he added himself into the text? If I add myself to the Quran, am I now superior to and predicted by the Quran? I'm the new Muhammad?
No.
Oh, So
but you don't have. I need to have evidence that you're a prophet.
Well, the evidence immediately in that situation would be that I'm not a prophet, because any new revelation has to be consistent with the prior revelation. That's Deuteronomy 13 and Deuteronomy 18. And so adding yourself into an ancient text is a default fraudulent move.
Well, Joseph Smith, he aligns with the prophecies before him.
No, he doesn't.
No. Yes. Well, under your interpretation, maybe not.
Where in the Old Testament is there anything like Joseph Smith's a prediction of what Joseph Smith teaches?
Other than, well, you don't appeal to, the things, the verses that, or later chapters that were discovered. So I guess.
Well, I don't believe they are discovered. I'm talking about the Torah. Do you admit that the Torah came first?
In some ways.
What does that mean? In some ways.
Well, I think maybe. I guess it did come first as part of the Hebrew scriptures.
Right.
Obviously, those predate Joseph Smith.
Okay, thank you. That's what I'm looking for.
But
Now,
the divine revelation is eternal. So.
Well, hold on. Before we get to that, so when it says, for example, in Deuteronomy 13 and Deuteronomy 18, any prophets or preachers that come along have to be consistent with the teaching of the Torah, what does that mean?
Well, it means what it says, probably, right? So, but
come on, dude, you're avoiding the question. What does that mean to what we're talking about now, in regard to that? In regard to Joseph Smith's prophethood.
Well, it's consistent from what I could tell.
Okay, does Joseph Smith teach that there is one God or many gods?
Well, I mean, I guess many, but
okay. Does that where in the Torah or in the Shema is there many gods?
I mean, there are tons of arguments for the fact that there are multiple gods in the Old Testament.
Okay, and like what?
Like the woman, whatever.
The woman. No, what are you talking about? The woman.
But no, there's definitely references to other gods.
Okay. Well, if you've read the Ten Commandments, there's no other gods. What does that mean?
That there's no other God. Yeah. So.
But you just said you just said the Old Testament. You just said the Old Testament teaches that there's many gods. I just quoted to you the Ten Commandments, and you said it means that there's no other gods.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But
we're gonna move on. Isaiah, what's up, man? What's up, dude? You there? If you want to support the stream, you can do so via the super chat function. Super chats are through Streamlabs, or you can do them natively through YouTube as well. Isaiah, you got to unmute, man. Isaiah, are you there? Did you turn your mic on? All right, we'll try Nicholas. Isaiah, you want to come back in? Just turn your mic on. Nicholas, got to unmute.
Hello?
Hey. What's on your mind?
Hey, I was going to say, as to, I'm from Utah, so I deal with Mormons a lot.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of things I like to take them to is when they say, when does the apostasy occur? A lot of them will say, during the time of the apostles when they left. But if you go on their website, there's a document called the 40 Nights of Apostasy. And basically it's just stating and blaming Constantine for the apostasy. But then it's like, wait a minute. Is it the apostles or is it Constantine? Because it can't be both. Because what you're saying is the apostles started all these churches and Jesus did all this for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, hold on. Where is this? I'm looking up.
The LDS website?
The churchofjesuschrist.org.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what?
It's called the 40 Nights of Apostasy.
The 49th?
No, 40 Nights.
40. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. My bad. Okay.
It's a few pages to read, so when you get time to read it, I mean, it's a good argument against
it. Is it the long night of apostasy, chapter 40?
Yeah, that's what it is. My bad.
That's okay.
Yeah, and that basically is just blaming Constantine, and they kind of mention the East Catholics, but you can tell they don't know anything about what the Orthodox teach and stuff. They just say, "Oh, there was a schism." Oh well. Well,
Yeah.
what's that got to do with anything?
Yeah,
1,000
right.
years later.
Right, exactly. No, that's a great point. Yeah. Anybody who has any Mormon sci-fi lore, because it is a sci-fi religion, by the way, if you don't know that, but feel free to chime in here and bring out some of these contradictions. So I'm trying to find where he's. Yeah. Okay. So the original church is listed here. They're talking about the Romans. Constantine came, the 4th century, radical change in the church. Yeah, so this is like Seventh-day Adventist Baptist level stuff that Constantine completely changed the church. Appreciate that.
And then when you bring it up, they'll be like, "That's not part of our doctrine." It's like it's on your website.
Right? Yeah, right.
Part of your doctrine.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. What's up, Austin?
Hey, sorry if I interrupted you. I didn't see that you were. So I just wanted to hop in real quick, because I heard the Mormon call in, and it's kind of like on the discussion for tonight. I'm from Utah, so I wanted to highlight some of the lunacies and quackery of this strange cult.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much you know about Mormonism.
So let me say real quick, I was supposed to debate one of the top Mormons about 10 years ago, and that led at the time to me putting about a month of hardcore research into Mormonism because I was working at the library as a research assistant at the university, so I had access to a pretty good sized library at that time. They had a whole shelf of like old Mormon stuff. So I went pretty deep. I know a lot of the basics. I don't know like ins and outs of the Book of Mormon and all this kind of Doctrine and Covenant, prologue. I mean, I know the documents, but I'm not like fluent in their texts. But I know the basics of their theology, if that helps.
Okay, so in the Book of Mormon, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's this illustration, and it's called, according to Joseph Smith, the sacrifice of Abraham. And Joseph Smith he's like a charlatan.
Oh, I know that, yeah.
So maybe I'll explain it for the audience real quick.
You go ahead. I'm pulling that up. I'm pulling that up when you.
Okay.
And you said it's the sacrifice of Abraham.
Yeah, I believe so. So Joseph Smith, he's like peddling these Egyptian tablets back in his day, and the Rosetta Stone.
Is this the thing? Is this the thing that's ripped off of the Egyptian Book of the Dead?
I don't know where it's ripped off from. It's like a funerary like practice.
Yes. It's
something like that, and he goes around because he claims that he can read Egyptian, and he's saying like that these certain tablets mean certain things, and now we know that that's not at all what is actually depicted in the tablet. And I don't know if you know Brigham Young.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
He gave a talk. I'll have to find the year, but he believed that men lived on the moon, and like, mind you, like this belief system, like these people, these heads of the church are living prophets.
Yeah,
they
exactly.
That they speak for the living, like prophetic tradition of the Mormon Church.
Right.
And he also said that black people are cursed by the mark of Cain.
Yeah, I knew that.
And that brown people are cursed. Joseph Smith died in a shoot-'em-up jail, like a jail shoot-'em-up. He died because his Mormons went and burned down a newspaper. Printing press.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of like crazy stuff. And like, mind you, I mean, these people like rule the state that I'm in, and I just don't understand how anybody can believe this.
Well, were you aware of the additions to Genesis? I think that's the kill shot.
Yeah, and it's like talking to a wall when you bring it up to these Mormon people, because you can bring it all up and you can mention that, and you ask them, does Joseph Smith have the authority to do stuff like this? And they'll just say, like, they'll just make excuses. Oh, well, he was just reinterpreting text and nonsense like this. They honestly can't be spoken to. It's just strange. And the baptism of the dead, they got in trouble for baptizing Anne Frank with the Jews. They got in big trouble for that.
That I didn't know. No, I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up a few things for the audience.
No, those are great. In fact, somebody, thank you, Austin. Somebody in the comments had mentioned the Abraham it's like a drawing that he made, but it's supposed to be a hieroglyph, and we're supposed to think, right, that Joseph Smith can interpret and read hieroglyphs, right? So if you saw the picture that I had up, that's obviously not an Egyptian hieroglyph, and as he's saying with the Rosetta Stone, like, he wasn't interpreting any of that stuff correctly. So this is Brigham Young saying that there's inhabitants of the sun. It's even worse. So there's people that not living on the moon. It's people that living on the sun. And yes, he does say that. And the Mormons are like, well, it's just his opinion. So here's Mormon Ministries, Mormon Research Ministries. It's the sun and the moon. According to Mormon-friendly church websites, Joseph Smith taught that the moon was inhabited by people who dressed like the Quakers. Philo Dibble, a close associate of Joseph Smith, as his source, speaks of this. And then Brigham Young says that there's people on the sun. Brigham Young expanded on the teaching that the sun is inhabited. Who can tell us of the inhabitants of this little planet that shines in the evening called the moon? When you inquire about the inhabitants of that sphere, you find that the most learned are ignorant in regard to them and the most ignorant of their fathers. So it is in regard to the inhabitants of the sun. Do you think it is inhabited? I rather think it is. Do you think there is any life there? There is no question of it. It was not made in vain. It was made to give life to those that dwell upon it and to the other planets. So will this earth when it is celestialized. Now, the Mormon apologetic website was saying, no, he just said it's his opinion. Oh, it's his opinion? If it's his opinion, why does he say there is no question of it? So, here's your Mormon prophets. People live on the sun. Okay, this is like one of my favorites too. Probably a lot of you guys don't know this. Let me see if I can find this one. I remember this from back in the days when I first started looking into Mormonism. Is it Nehi? This one is funny. It's pretty, it may be well known, I don't know, but it's the guy who gets his head cut off and he raises up and gasps for air and dies. Let's see if I can find that one. And then I remember one time I was looking up Mormon responses. There was a Mormon website where they interviewed a doctor trying to say that this is possible. I mean, what? I'm not joking. Let's see. Raised up, gasp for breath. I forget the exact wording, but because Joseph Smith wrote his book in like old King's English, right? This is it. Shiz. The decapitation of Shiz. So they brought in the Mormon scholars to help out with this one. Maybe this is an anti-Mormon site. Let me see. The headless people that don't do push-ups. The story of Coriantumr and Shiz. Can a decapitated body lift itself up and gasp for breath? The Book of Mormon says so. The story is found in the Book of Ether. The Book of Ether. What the fuck is a Book of Ether, dude? That's like literal esoteric occult stuff. Like, I'm not saying that you can't talk about ether. I know ancient philosophers did, but like there's a Book of Ether. The Book of the Philosopher's Stone. This is Harry Potter stuff, dude. Like Joseph Smith's religion is like Harry Potter sci-fi, dude. And when Dumbledore reached the goblets of fire, Harry thrust his magic wand inside of the gay Dumbledore. By the way, that was retroactively gay. Wasn't Dumbledore the first retroactive gay character? Let's see. The story is found in the Book of Ether. and recounts a sword fight between a Jaredite king named Coriantumr and Shiz, the brother of Lib. I mean, it's like Joseph Smith wasn't even good at making up like fake ancient Jewish names. Like they just sound totally Coriantumr. It's like, and Curry fought with his brother Basil, who snatched the adamantine philosopher's stone from Dumbledore. The two armies meet. There's a battle. On the third day, Shiz wounded Coriantumr with many deep wounds, and he was carried away as though he were dead. After recovering from his wounds, Coriantumr began to feel bad that there had been slain 2 million mighty men and their wives and children. He attempted to make peace with Shiz. Shiz agreed only if he would be allowed to kill Coriantumr with a sword. Well, this infuriated Coriantumr's people, and so the fighting began again. Let's scroll down. After the fight, Shiz fainted with, it says, Ether 15:29. The course of the battle, Shiz fainted with the loss of blood. Taking advantage of the situation, Coriantumr took his sword and smote off the head of Shiz. But that's not all. Verse 31 says that after he had smitten off the head, Shiz raised up his hands and fell after he struggled for breath and died. How can a man raise himself up and struggle for breath if he's been beheaded? Mormon apologists have offered many answers to this. LDS apologist B.H. Roberts says, it is not impossible. He said he heard a story of a soldier returning from battle at Balaclava, and it sounded similar. Oh yeah, so if a Mormon says he heard a story that was similar, I guess it's possible. The Mormon Encyclopedia says an exhausted Coriantumr culminated his victory by decapitating him. Near Eastern examples of decapitation are evident, and decapitation of captured kings is represented in ancient Mesoamerica. So wait a minute. It admits that decapitation means he lost his head in the Mormon Encyclopedia. So you can't say that he got half his head, he got half his neck chopped. It was just a little bit of a, shaving cut. No, it says he was decapitated. And then here's a Mormon guy that says he didn't literally cut his head off. It was just popular colloquial language. Yeah, just the colloquial popular language of cutting your head off. Like that's beheading. Just like I'm about to behead you, dude. I mean, were they using modern slang? Like, where's the evidence that in the 1800s or in the ancient world beheading was slang or a colloquialism? And then here's another Mormon. The head was not completely cut off because he was just obviously too exhausted to do the full clean job. He must have cut at the base of the skull and allowed him to still breathe, leaving reflexes and then death. Yeah, but the phrase smote off, right, and decapitated, right, in the same way as the Bible itself says that Jael cut off the head of Sisera. She smote his head. So if Joseph Smith is using smote in the same sense as Judges 5, when Jael smote off the head of Sisera, then there you go. Anyway, so they just keep going. I'm sure they have a million different ways to say, well, we have a doctor who's talks about decapitated heads that continue to breathe, so it's possible. Yeah, okay, sure. How about it's just a bunch of bullshiz? To use the term shiz again. Latter-day Saint, do you want to talk? You have to unmute. LDS Christian, unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi. You are debating Mormons tonight.
Sure.
So Chad Wilson, throw out a shout out to you for letting me know when Jay's on.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm LDS. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because I find the early Christian church fathers teach LDS doctrine more than they teach Orthodox or Catholic doctrines, especially when we look at before Nicaea and the change in infant baptism. I don't see infant baptism taught before really about 200 AD, and of course the Trinity is definitely a part of the apostasy. So, yeah, that's
okay.
why.
Who do you think started teaching the Trinity?
Who do I think started teaching the Trinity? Constantine, the Gnostics. That's where homoousios comes from.
Wait, Constantine the Gnostics. Constantine is an emperor. He has nothing to do with Gnostics.
Right, but it came from Greek philosophy. When you
so you said Constantine.
When you follow the history of homoousios, it comes through Gnosticism.
Right, so that's a genetic
fallacy.
It's a genetic fallacy. The fact that somebody uses a term does not equate to the meaning of that system using that term.
Sure, but when you look at the idea within Christianity, homoousios was condemned and anathematized in the 260s to condemn Paul of Samosata.
Yeah, but the term is not the problem. It's the meaning of the term, so it really doesn't matter. But
well, it's the term and the meaning of the term.
No, it's not. There's nothing wrong.
The meaning doesn't change.
Of course it does. This is the this is the word concept fallacy. And by the way, how could the Trinity come there when Tertullian has a gigantic book and about 180 on the Trinity?
Yeah, Tertullian did not teach the Trinity. I do a 10-hour, almost nearly a 20-hour series on my channel on YouTube, debunking the idea that Tertullian taught the Trinity. He taught that the Son was formed when God said, "Let there be light." He was given his own form, his own voice, his own garb, and he said that when God said, "Let there be light," he said that's the perfect nativity of the Son, nativity, the birth. When God said, "Let there be light," and Jesus is known as the light.
We've already done a response to all this. I'm not going to go through 10 hours of your citing of it. So what are you laughing at?
So what?
Are you laughing?
I didn't laugh.
Okay. I thought you were laughing. So we've done a response to this that was about a 2-hour talk on Inspiring Philosophy's channel, which deals with this Muslim line of argumentation that these early church fathers. Now, if you're saying that the Trinity was from Constantine and the Gnostics, and I'm saying that, well, the doctrine of the Holy Trinity is the very first thing mentioned against Praxeas. Even if you take issue with some of the formulations of the way that he talks about the Son, he does not say the Son is a creature. So he's still teaching, quote, the doctrine of the Trinity. That's the very beginning of the treatise. So it's not from Constantine. Right. So it's not from Constantine.
So actually the Tertullian actually teaches it very similar to the way we do.
No, it doesn't.
In the sense that Joseph Smith taught that intelligences are not created. We are uncreated. And Tertullian taught that...
well, hold on. We're uncreated? How many gods are there?
Intelligences are not gods.
If they're uncreated, they're gods.
No, matter is uncreated. It does not mean that matter is a god.
So that's right. That's Aristotle's doctrine. If matter is uncreated, how is it not divine?
Justin Martyr taught that matter was not created.
No, he doesn't teach that. No, he does not. He teaches creation. No, he doesn't. He teaches creation ex nihilo.
He does not teach ex nihilo.
Yes, he does. And you're citing a section where he taught. Most of the time when people argue this, I don't know if you're arguing this, but most of the time they're citing a section where he's telling you what the Gnostic doctrines are. He does believe in creation.
No,
yes,
he does not teach Gnostic doctrines in First Apology.
No, did you hear what I said? When Mormons and other people try to prove from Irenaeus that he does not teach ex nihilo, they cite a section where he's describing Gnostic teachings denying ex nihilo. You can't understand what I'm saying?
I did not say Irenaeus. I said Justin Martyr.
Okay, I'm talking about Irenaeus. So my mistake.
I'm talking about Justin Martyr. Justin Martyr taught ex materia.
Well, even if he did, it doesn't mean that it's true. But what?
It shows that the earlier we go, we see LDS doctrines.
No, we don't.
Orthodox.
No, we
doctrines.
don't. Because he does not. He does not teach Mormon doctrine. You can watch the response that Sam Shamoon did after we did our response to the Muslims raising the same question. They're not teaching your doctrine. And by the way, it wouldn't matter even if one church father made that mistake, because we don't follow one single church father. The New Testament doesn't teach that there's prima materia or that there's eternal matter. The book of Maccabees teaches that God created everything out of nothing.
Yeah, well, we don't follow the book of Maccabees.
Yeah, but see, well, how do you know what the canon is? How do you know what the scriptures are?
Because we have living apostles who tell us what they are.
So how do you know they're living apostles?
Because they have the authority.
Okay, where did they get that? What's the criteria?
Peter, James, and John.
Where did they get that authority? What's the criteria?
The criteria is to be given it to you from those who hold that authority.
So every cult claims that they have authority.
James and John came to Joseph Smith and gave him and.
How do you know? Now hold on. How do you know
authority.
that Peter, James, and John came to Joseph Smith and he's not just a fraud?
Because we have witnesses and evidence that show that he was a prophet. The Book of Mormon.
The Book of Mormon proves true. So the Book of Mormon proves that he's. So his own claims to be a prophet is what proves he's a prophet.
I'm sorry.
His own claims to be a prophet is what proves he's a prophet, according to you.
Not just his own claims, the claims of other witnesses that were there.
Okay, so any cult, if they have people claiming to be witnesses, that means that it's true? How do you know that they're not lying?
Because the consistency within history.
I don't even know what that means. I mean, what do you say to a Muslim who says that the early followers of Muhammad are consistent with the Quran, therefore Islam is true?
Well, I'm talking about the early Christian history after the apostles died.
No, it's the argument is a fallacious argument, is what I'm trying to explain.
So what I'm saying is that everything is evidence for the prophet, because we have consistent evidence through history, through the Bible.
That's a circle.
No, it's not.
Well, the Bible doesn't teach your view. In fact, in the Joseph Smith translation, he added himself to the last chapter of Genesis, correct?
When you look at the Jews actually believed in a Messiah ben Joseph that was supposed to descend from.
No. That's not what I said. Yeah. No, that's a rabbinic Talmudic tradition that has nothing to do with the Bible. That's nowhere in the Bible.
Joseph Smith added that rabbinic tradition back into the Bible.
Exactly. So he's a fraud. So he retroactively added himself to the Bible.
He
Exactly.
He
so he's a fraud. Exactly.
Messiah ben Joseph.
So he adds himself to the text. So your argument was that he's a true prophet because he's predicted, and you're admitting that he added himself to the text. That's a fraud.
He was predicted by the rabbinic text.
How in anybody's mind would you think that Messiah ben Joseph from the Talmud has anything to do with Joseph Smith? Is Joseph Smith Jewish?
No. In fact, it says that he's not supposed to be Jewish. It says that he comes from the tribe.
How would the Jews accept Messiah ben Joseph if he's a Gentile?
Because the Ephraimites became they were.
So you think that was in the minds of the Talmudic writers, that they were talking about the shit that is in the Book of Mormon? This made up nonsense about Ephraimites?
Joseph is supposed to precede the Messiah ben David's second coming. He's supposed to be a restorer. He's supposed to restore the temple. He's supposed to.
And you think that the rabbinic Jews in the Talmud who don't believe in anything to do with Christianity or the Bible or Jesus were predicting Joseph Smith a Gentile?
Yes, because when you go, you can actually go look. You can go look at the Jewish Encyclopedia under Messiah. Everybody look this up. Go to the Messiah Jewish Encyclopedia entry and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you will read about Messiah ben Joseph. And Joseph Smith filled those prophecies about Messiah ben Joseph.
Why would he fulfill those prophecies as a Gentile and then add himself to the book of Genesis? This is so stupid.
Because he was it already talked about that in the book of Genesis, and it was removed.
How do you know it was removed? How do you know it was removed?
Because it doesn't exist anymore.
So
they still have the
you don't.
prophecies.
You don't see this how dumb this circle is. So we only know that it's removed because he says it's removed, so he adds it, and that's the proof that he's the prophet. That's a circle.
Because we have the evidence in the Jewish Encyclopedia.
What does that have to do with Joseph Smith?
There's
no Jew, there's no Talmudic Jew that would accept a Gentile Messiah ben Joseph. That's crazy.
Because we are not just Gentiles. We are of the tribes of Israel.
No, you're not. That's all made up.
Tribes of Israel.
There's no evidence that you are not the tribe. No, you're not. How are you that when you are you? What's your lineage? You're Jewish now?
I am of the tribe of Ephraim.
No. Mormons think that you're of these tribes, but you're like the Black Hebrew Israelites who claim that you're that when you're nothing to do with that.
So we have the evidence that...
you have no evidence. What's your evidence?
We have the evidence that confirms itself.
What? You have the evidence that confirms itself. So that's a circle.
The evidence is consistent because when we have...
In Jewish eschatology, Messiah ben Yosef or Mashiach ben Yosef is a Jewish Messiah.
Not necessarily.
No, that's the rabbinic tradition.
It's the rabbinic tradition, but it doesn't.
Which has nothing to do with you. You're not Jewish or rabbinic. You have nothing to do with that. You have no connection to that.
Doesn't mean that everything that they interpret has to be interpreted that way.
So again, this is why the religion is fraudulent, because you remove the context. You remove the context and make it about something that is nowhere in their mind. That's why it's fraudulent. It's also fraudulent
They did not interpret the Messiah ben David properly in the very beginning anyway. That's why they missed their Messiah.
Oh, so so that would discount your usage of their prophecy to begin with. So if Messiah ben David is a false usage, you can't use Messiah ben Joseph to prove you, dummy. You just undercut yourself.
Yes, I can. Because
that's a double standard. You just refuted yourself.
Jay, we know better.
We know better. You literally just said that because you said that the Jews were wrong about Messiah ben David, and they misinterpreted. Shut up! Shut up! You just... all right, this is too stupid. He literally just said the Jews are not trustworthy because their interpretation of Messiah ben David is wrong. Oh, but I'm going to use Messiah ben Joseph out of context because that one's right, but it's not what they thought. This is so crazy. This is the exact same thing as the Mohammedans saying that the Old Testament is predicting Muhammad. But wait a minute, that's all corrupted. No, but the Muhammad tells me that it was predicting Muhammad.
Not only that, remember I told you that set of a Conta priest where he was like, "Have you read the book of Maccabees? It prophesies my coming."
But we know now. We know more now.
We now know.
We now know that Jewish prophecies are all wrong, and Talmudic prophecies are wrong, except for when we can take them out of context and apply them to Joseph Smith, who happens to have the same name as Messiah ben Yosef, the Jewish altar Messiah from the Talmud. Look at the mind pretzels of this idiotic cult.
We need to come up with another fallacy name that, well, it's right when it supports my position and wrong when it doesn't.
Well, that's just a double standard.
Yeah, the double standard fallacy.
Yeah. So, when the Jews mentioned, by the way, did you notice he did word concept fallacy several times? The Trinity is wrong because the word homoousios was used once by a Gnostic and an anti-Trinitarian. Yeah, well, guess what? The word logos was used by Marcus Aurelius. So what? Does that mean that every usage of the word logos necessarily is the Stoic philosophy? But this is how, religions, cults like this thrive on the fraudulent deception of terms like Joseph. Well, that's got to be talking about Joseph Smith, because even though the Jews don't believe that it's a Gentile man or the Mormons.
As I always said in the chat, I thought it was a prophecy about Trader Joe's.
Yeah, why can we not start bringing in other Josephs here? Who's some other Josephs that we know?
Stalin, Joseph Stalin.
Messiah ben Joseph Stalin. And look, how can you say that it's wrong because the Jews got other things wrong? So I can take that to be Stalin. Like his logic was that because the Jews don't accept Messiah ben David as a son of David or Jesus.
And when you get in trouble, to use the words, well, it's consistent, you see. It's a consistent circle. Huh?
Well, we have a historical witness to it. Like what? Well, I'm of the tribes of Ephraim. How are you the tribe of Ephraim? This is like Black Hebrew Israelite level stuff. Messiah ben Rogan.
Hey, how's it going?
What's up, dude?
So I'm an ex-Mormon.
I'm aware. I remember.
Yeah. So the guy who was on earlier, he has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to Messiah ben Joseph. A lot of ex-Mormons have already made videos on YouTube debunking. It's like the Mormon theory that started in the 90s. But the funniest part is one of the most prominent parts of the prophecy is that Messiah ben Joseph is supposed to become before Messiah ben David. That's the
well, there we go.
problem. Yeah.
I'm trying to find a Jewish encyclopedia entry on that.
Yeah. A lot of Mormons just like make things up about that prophecy and post it on social media, and then the audience just eats it up and regurgitates it. But I posted a couple things in the chat for people to see, like when it comes to Mormonism. Like a lot of the times Mormons will try to use the idea like, oh, you guys had so many schisms that proves the great apostasy. I posted a chart for people to save in the chat showing all the schisms that happened within Mormonism.
Oh, wow. Well, by the way, the first thing that came up is, according to the Talmudic tradition, Messiah ben Joseph will appear prior to the coming of the Messiah ben David.
Yeah, exactly.
He will gather the children of Israel around him, march to Jerusalem, and overcome hostile powers and reestablish the temple. Oh, but that was going to happen in what, Nauvoo, Illinois, where they're going to say, is that where? So that's where this is.
It's supposed to, well, in Missouri now.
I'm sorry, Missouri.
Yeah. But it's pretty ridiculous. But you guys were talking about the book of Abraham earlier in the Egyptian hieroglyphics. I posted my favorite part that Joseph Smith, quote unquote, translated. Where he shows that one of the depictions is supposed to be the Father, God the Father, but Egyptologists have translated it, and it's actually the Egyptian god Min of fertility. And what people thought was his hand extending to quote unquote receive the priesthood.
It's his dingling.
Actually an erected penis.
It's his dingling. Yep.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention, because I was actually on Father Ananias's live a couple days ago asking about tritheism. I just wanted to point out, just for everyone to know whenever they are debating Mormons, that they do not believe that Jesus is actually created. They have almost like a pantheistic view of the universe and the Godhead. And so they believe that the intelligence, substance, and spirit of everybody is eternal along with the universe. And so technically speaking, that would make Jesus and all of us eternal as well and uncreated.
No, that guy just said that.
Yeah, I know, but like a lot of Mormons don't even know their own cosmology.
Oh, okay.
They're pretty. They know a lot of surface level things. Just the basis of their apologetics boils down to essentially, well, I had a spiritual experience with the Book of Mormon, therefore everything else is true. And they don't need to really dig into anything else. So.
Yeah. And by the way, this is Jewish Encyclopedia, Messiah ben Joseph. The tradition from the Talmud is that he comes before Messiah ben David, right? And gathers the children of Israel, marches to Jerusalem.
Yeah, exactly. So either they'd have to just reject that theory that they have with Joseph Smith, or start coming up with some other theories about how Jesus Christ is going to come later the first time, and that didn't happen.
Yeah, right.
When it actually happened. Yeah, so it's pretty ridiculous. But yeah, basically Mormon apologetic. Like you've been exposing them just right now in the chat. It's extremely circular. and it just boils down to their subjective experience with the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, so he's a prophet, and I know this because I felt good reading it.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, thank you, Lemon. I appreciate that. And that's also why it's very important, as Father Deacon often points out, and I point out, this is why logic and critical thinking matters. Because when a Mormon says, deep down I know Mormonism's true because I feel it in the burning in my bosom, that is not a good reason for belief. That is a failed attempt at justification. So you see, this is why justification matters in epistemology, because we need to have good reasons for our beliefs, not just any old reasons like burning in my bosom, because that could be heartburn. Maybe you had
heartburn is not a good justification.
Yeah, I mean that was Bonson's old joke. Like, if your justification for your belief in your religion is burning in the bosom, then maybe that was the pizza you had last night. How do you know that's from God or the Holy Spirit? Cole?
Hey, have you heard of the Mormons' belief on who Bigfoot is?
Who's that?
They believe that it's Cain, from Cain and Abel.
Are you joking or being serious?
I am dead serious. If you look it up, there's in a book called The Miracle of Forgiveness by a past prophet named Spencer W. Kimball.
I mean, this is awesome. This is like the people that live on the sun, by the Brigham Young quote.
Yeah.
Okay, let me find that. You said prophet who?
Spencer W. Kimball, Kimball.
Okay.
So it's in the book called The Miracle of Forgiveness, and it was published in 69. And so the story goes that there's an early church leader, they say apostle, but I hate calling them apostles, but his name was David Patton, and he had an encounter in 1835, he says, that he was riding on his mule and noticed a strange person walking next to him. He said his head was about even with his shoulders when he was on his horse or mule or whatever. And he had no clothing, was covered in hair, and his skin was very dark. And then he was just talking to him like it was just no big deal. Told him he had no home, he was a wanderer, and that his whole goal was to destroy the souls of men. And so that book came out in 69, and it brought that quote back, or that story, saying that the prophets believed that that was his interaction with Cain, and that he's never going to die, and that he's just torturing people throughout the world, but whatever. And so, yeah.
I'm going to have to get this book, man. That's funny. I appreciate that. Yeah. We'll have to get this book. I'll have to find the actual, I'd love to see the actual. I wonder, let's see if maybe it's on page 127. Let's see if we can find it on 127. PDF or like Google Books or something. Let's see. Thank you guys for the super chats. We'll read some of those here in a second. No image, no preview. Oh man, let's try a PDF over here. Maybe it's on archive or something. Oh, I forgot to. We need to kind of walk through a couple of the verses, as Father Deacon and I have done many times. Oh, here we go. Miracle of Forgiveness. So let's see, page 127. It's very easy to refute both Mormonism and Islam when we understand the finality of divine revelation, in the sense of public divine revelation. Once the last apostle died, there's no more prophets. There's no more revelation. And Mormonism, like charismaticism or Seventh-day Adventism with Ellen White, those thrive on the notion that there's ongoing new public revelations, you see. And so this is why, from the outset, it's a con. Because first of all, we know Deuteronomy 13, you can't have new doctrines or new theology that's not consistent with the prior revelation. So the Torah has to be consistent with what the new revelation posits as it comes. So when the prophets come, Isaiah, David, they have to be teaching what's consistent with the Torah. Likewise, when Jesus comes and when the apostles teach the New Testament, it also has to be consistent with the Torah and the prophets, you see. You can never have something new that contradicts the old or supersedes it. That right away cuts out a ton of the Mormon argumentation that we've heard tonight. So one of these passages that we want to look at is Zechariah 13, and this is a messianic prediction of the messianic era. And it talks about that in this day when the Messiah is around and when righteousness is beginning to sprout in the world, there will no longer be prophets. In that day it will come to pass, I will cut off the name of the idols out of the land, and they will no longer be remembered. And the unclean spirit shall pass out of that land. And it shall come to pass that if anyone prophesies, his mother or father that begot him shall say, you will not live, for you have spoken lies in the name of the Lord. In that day every prophet will be ashamed when they prophesy. And they will say, I am not a prophet. I am a husbandman, a tender of the vineyard. And this is messianic because we know it's messianic because of what does verse 7 say? He was wounded in the house of his friends, verse 6. And verse 7, woe to the shepherd. And the shepherd will be smitten and the sheep scattered. That is a prophecy of Christ's crucifixion and the apostles being scattered when he dies. Those are messianic prophecies. Therefore, when the Messiah comes, one of the things that he institutes is the finality to divine revelation. Let's look at another passage, Daniel 9. And this also disproves dispensationalism, as we pointed out in the previous week's focus on dispensational Zionism. In the 70 weeks prophecy, one of the things that we're told comes about at the first advent is the sealing up of the vision and prophecy and the anointing of the Messiah the Prince, verse 25. This is when is this taking place? Well, guess what? It actually tells you when the Messiah is cut off. That's the death of Christ. Okay, first advent. What is one of the characteristics of the first advent? The sealing up of vision and prophecy. In other words, when the Messiah comes, this will be the era in which vision and prophecy is complete. Once John the Apostle died, there's no more oral word of God, no more written word of God. He's the last apostle to die. It's done. That's why when we come over here to Jude, Jude can say in Jude 3, give me the freaking chapter. Yeah. Beloved, when I gave all diligence to write unto you of the common salvation, it was needful for me to write unto you to exhort you that you should earnestly contend, that's apologetics, for the faith once delivered unto the saints. That means there's no new deliveries. There's no new revelations. Okay?
Once, twice, 3 times, 5 times.
Exactly.
Right.
And as Father Deacon points out, Galatians 1, Paul says in the famous verse that everybody's aware of, do not go after another gospel. Even if we are an angel from heaven, preach another gospel. Obviously, that's 100% applicable to the cult of Joseph Smith, which was supposedly given to him as new revelations from an angel, Moroni. But Paul says, do not go after any other gospel other than what was delivered to you via Pauline theology and teaching. Guess what? That means there has to be a finality to this. Otherwise, you could not judge what comes in the future. Father Deacon, would you want to comment on that at all?
Sorry, repeat that, please.
Well, you were the one that made this point about Galatians 1, even when Paul says you judge any future claim from an angel or from any entity by what Paul handed down, that means there's a finality to it. Otherwise, you couldn't.
So, yeah, it's an epistemic point of having the whole deposit so that things don't need to be filled in, because if the picture is not filled in, then any heretic can come later and be like, and put a piece in, right? I'm always thinking kind of like a jigsaw puzzle or something like that. I think that's what St. Irenaeus uses, the metaphor or analogy of a mosaic or something like that. But if you don't have the complete picture as a whole, then there's no way that you have a standard to say any of it's true. So we need that actually completed, delivered as a whole, because that's precisely what preserves and gives us justification for any of these. That's why you can see this guy basically just says, well, I'll just put my own thing in there and then I'll just circle back on it, and that's the justification. And the eyewitnesses are written in the thing that I added in there from Joseph Smith. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's no way it doesn't give you any objective or public epistemic means or way of determining what's authentic, what's true, what's apostolic. So what they end up doing, and every heretic does, is, well, obviously, I just pick the stuff that supports my position and reject the rest of it. So I start with my own made-up position, and then I'll just exclude anything that negates that or, rejects that, and I'll use and reconstruct an image about how that supports mine. So you can do that if there's no hole, if there's no kataholos, if there's no apostolic deposit of faith. So that's why I always hammer home with that. I'm like, if you don't have that, and we do have it, then you don't know anything. So it is a sort of kind of transcendental argument in the sense of the impossibility of the contrary. It's either orthodoxy, the kataholos, once delivered, or it's nothing. You don't have any justification whatsoever for anything you say. Yeah, that's always my argument.
Okay, and to add to that, you'll notice here at the end of the book of Revelation, John says, if anyone hears the words of the prophecy of this book and adds unto these things, God will add unto him to the plagues. And if you take away, likewise, the name is removed from the book of life. Now, this is not talking about a completed Protestant canon of 66 books, as many Protestants like to assume. But the principle still applies because providentially, John's book was the last of the books to be included in the canon, and it is the final revelation and the final writing of the final apostle, St. John the theologian. So to add anything to this final revelation does violate this principle of adding to the finality, right? So even though John didn't necessarily know, or anyone else, that this was the final book of the canon of scriptures, it eventually providentially made its way into the canon of scriptures and was the final text. And so to add anything subsequently to this revelation in some sort of, Joseph Smith cult type of way would still be violating the principle of these verses, although not necessarily a proof for sola scriptura or for a Protestant canon. So I want to be very clear that I'm not conceding to Protestants that this proves their view of the 66 books, because this doesn't tell you which books go into the canon. But it does lay down a principle that here, clearly there's some finality to this revelation. Otherwise, if there's new revelations after John, then it would be contradicting the warning that you can't add to this, to the prophetic revelations. So there's no new prophetic revelations after John. Now, one last point. The church has already, by the way, dealt with this heresy. It's called the heresy of Montanism. And
not Montanism.
Not Montana. Not where he is. Just briefly here. And this shouldn't be too controversial, so I'm not a huge fan of Wikipedia, but this shouldn't really be that big of a... This should be easy to find. Montanism is known by its adherents as the New Revelation, so it conveniently identified itself for you. It is an early Christian movement of the late 2nd century, mid to late, referred to its founder, Montanus. Montanism held views about basic Christian theology similar to the wider Christian church. However, it was labeled a heresy for its belief in new prophetic figures. So guess what? Any heresy or cult that comes along and says there's new revelations is already canceled out by everything we've been talking about for the last 10 minutes and by the judgment of the church early on rejecting Montanism. The prophetic movement called for a reliance on the spontaneous. This is like charismatics in the 2nd century, okay? So you get the idea. And by the way, to hammer it home, this is the heresy that Tertullian fell into. Because Tertullian was a holy roller, he thought that the visible institutional church, which already existed, okay? So notice, Tertullian leaving the institutional Catholic Church proves that in the 2nd century, there was already an institutional Catholic Church, or else Tertullian could not leave it and criticize it as being corrupt. And thus Tertullian fell into the heresy of Montanism. William? I see you. Yeah, what's up? I see you laughing. What's up?
I'm not laughing, Jay. I think it might have been the wrong emoji.
Oh, that's fine.
I just like it. I just want to thank you very much for dealing with Robert.
Who?
Robert.
Who's Robert?
Oh, he's the LDS lunatic that called in.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah, his full name is Robert Gurr. He's one of the most prominent LDS apologists on the interweb.
Oh, really? His name is what? Robert what?
Robert Gurr.
Gurr, like Gurr. What do you mean?
Literally G-U-R.
Oh, G-U-R-R. Okay. By the way, to speak to that guy, by the way, reminder, so when the Muslims were doing this exact same thing 1 year ago, Jake was doing it, Daniel Hakikachi was doing it, doing the exact same line of argumentation that this Muslim dude, or this Mormon dude, Gurr, was doing. Inspiring Philosophy and I did a almost an hour and a half talk here, just going through pre-Nicene proofs for the Trinity. And so this is very important for this point here. Go ahead.
Yeah, and then he you know how there's currently two schools of Mormons. One, you have the original ones that still believes in like polygamy and crazy stuff, and then there's like the newer kids that basically don't know anything. They think it's just like they believe in a completely different version of Mormonism that Joseph Smith taught. And what Robert believes in, he's somewhere in between, right? So a lot of the lunatic shit he said about the Messiah ben Joseph, it was not even taught by the original Mormons.
Oh, interesting.
That's just him, and he's famous for doing like the church father Origin, and then it happens to be the only ones he focuses on are Origin, Tertullian, and Justin Martyr. He doesn't want to go to anything else.
Okay.
The guys,
I love that. I just saw something on Twitter today where I can't remember if it was a papist or a Protestant. They're arguing something about orthodoxy, and they quote Origin and Tertullian. I'm like, that's your that's your argument against is two heretics.
Yeah, he still believes that there are multiple wives in heaven too. So, like, if you divorce a woman, that woman is still eternally bounded to you. You still have her in heaven. Like, you can do, like, the Muslim stuff. So, yeah, that's, like, the old school Mormon type of stuff. And I just want to thank you so much, Jay, because a lot of people were watching, and then he just officially ended his career.
Good. I had no idea who I was talking to, so that's good. I'm trying to find... does he have a channel? Where I can't find. I found one debate with this Protestant guy that he did, but I can't find him on a.
Yeah, I debated him many times, and I think some of it's on my channel. But yeah, but the Protestant guy is even worse than him.
Oh no.
That guy says he thinks Salome is the daughter of Mary.
Okay. But does Robert Gurr have a channel? Do you know what it is?
I will DM it to you. But it's crazy. But he's famous in the Mormon community for doing that stuff. That's why, like, we saw you do that, and my boy Chad and I, we just spammed him, telling him to come on.
Oh, good. Well, yeah. We'll notice once again, Messiah ben Joseph in he said go to the Jewish Encyclopedia. Here we are, and it says that this is the Jewish Talmudic tradition of the Messiah who will appear prior to Messiah ben David.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you getting that guy on here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought, let me bring you back. I thought you were done here. Finish what you're going to say. Go ahead. Come back, dude. I'm sorry. Come back. Where'd you go, dude? William Dyer. Come back, man. Here we go. William, come back. What were you going to say?
Yeah, Jay, I just want to ask, is the debate with William Albrecht on Sam's channel still happening, or are they, like, chickened out again?
Nobody chickened out. So what I talked to Sam yesterday, and I proposed to him that why don't we do a 1 versus 1 presentation? So either I do a presentation about why Rome is not right and Orthodoxy is right, and then Albrecht can do a separate presentation addressing mine arguments or doing his own. So, and Shamoon sounded like he was open to that, and I'm guessing he's going to ask Albrecht. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think I can, I probably wouldn't be able to keep my patience with that dude. Nothing to do with his arguments. It would just, Joshua Z, what's up? That would be the best way to go about this. Derek's Yoda, $5. Robert Gurr called in one time to Sam Shamoon's stream, and the archive clipped it. That sounds comedic. So let's see if we can find that. No, that's not him. That's Jacob Gurr. No, the guy is bald. Okay, so Robert Gurr is bald. Is this him? Is that him? Here's a bald dude.
So, my friend, so you believe in the Mormon God or gods, right?
Yeah. Hi, Sam. Can you hear me?
Is that him? This sounds like him.
I'm glad you're here. So obviously, we don't have the same God. You agree, right?
Yeah. You have a heretical God that I can't believe in. So
well, your God is Satan. He's your father. So first of all, you believe in the King James Bible, right? I mean, if it's properly interpreted.
Sure.
Can you show me in the King James Bible where your fake God was a man and he became God?
Don't need to. We don't.
Yes, actually, you need
No, we do not hold the sola scriptura.
I don't care.
We are not sola scriptura. Okay. I don't need to show you anything in the King James Bible.
Okay, LDS. I'm going to.
I don't need to show you anything.
Show me in the Book of Mormon.
I don't need to show you anything in the Book of Mormon. We are not sola scriptura.
So you're telling me your revelation from Joseph Smith, the son of Satan, you can't prove your case.
It's revelation. So I don't have to prove my case because that's what revelation is.
Now let's get to the Trinity from Scripture, the Old Testament, New Testament. What's your objection?
Okay, so just give me your definition of the Trinity. What is your definition of the Trinity?
The Father is God, the Son is God, the Spirit is God. The Father is not the Son is not the Spirit is not the Father, and they're all identified as Yahweh.
Okay. Why are there two Yahwehs in the Bible, in the Old Testament?
Because that's the biblical way of expressing the fact that this one Yahweh is not one person. I don't expect an ancient text to use modern vocabulary to describe.
I want to comment on this real quick because this is another version of word concept fallacy. So because the name Yahweh, the divine name, is applied in the Old Testament to the Father, the angel of the Lord, and the Spirit, you notice that he assumes that that must mean polytheism because you have two Yahwehs, right? It's another version of word concept fallacy that we saw him use twice in his presence on my stream. The first was that because homoousios was used and originated amongst heterodox groups, it necessarily carries heterodox baggage or meaning. Word concept fallacy. Again, the word logos, if I use the word logos, it doesn't necessitate that I mean it in the sense that the Stoics use the word logos. Right? If you read Marcus Aurelius' meditation, there's a lot of talk about logos there. Does that mean it's identical in exactly the same sense as what John 1 means? A lot of people think it is because they don't understand that language is flexible, it's fluid, it's polyvalent, meaning that it has not one referent, but multiple referents, perhaps, depending upon not just context, but also the system or the philosophical system that's using that word. Okay? For example, little one. Little one in the Bible might be referring to young children, or as we saw in the Zechariah passage where the Messiah is struck, little one refers to his disciples, the little ones who are scattered when the shepherd is struck. In the Lord of the Rings context, the little ones would be the hobbits. So does the word little one in the Bible then refer to and predict the hobbits? You see how silly this is. Likewise, Messiah ben Joseph, because Joseph Smith had the same name, it's absurd to conclude that the Jewish Talmudic reference to Messiah ben Yosef, who comes before Messiah ben David, would therefore be the same referent. And he's doing the exact same thing here, that the word Yahweh can only pick out one thing. Who else makes this argument? Muslims.
Describe the fact that this Yahweh is not one person, especially when we're told Yahweh is one, but one in what sense? So give me a better argument. What's the next one?
Well, you're when Justin Martyr uses Yahweh, he
wait. You said Bible, right? I'm gonna bury you with Justin Martyr because I have Justin Martyr. Don't go to Justin Martyr yet. Answer my point in the Old Testament in Deuteronomy 6:4, as well as Nehemiah 9:6 and Isaiah 37:20. We're told Yahweh is one. So then, if He's one, but then we see there's more than one person that is Yahweh. Welcome to the wonderful world of the Trinity, which is not your fake God. So now address me. What's your next objection?
Okay, so in Deuteronomy 6:4, he uses ikad, which is not a singular one or singularity. It is a unity.
Repeat my argument. I didn't say that.
So,
Repeat my argument.
So when we're talking about a unity, we don't talk about a singular God.
No, actually, you're wrong, because in Nehemiah 9:6, what's the word for alone? Yahweh alone. What's the word for Nehemiah 9:6?
Okay, in what?
Nehemiah 9:6. What's the
Nehemiah
word?
9:6.
Yep, Yahweh alone.
Okay, you tell me.
No. You think you know Hebrew? Go ahead, tell me.
No, I'm saying I know a little bit of Hebrew, because
Can you stop pretending to know, because there it says Yahweh alone. In other words,
right.
Only Yahweh alone.
I mean, he knows a little bit of Hebrew. Remember, he said he was Jew. He said he was of the tribe of Ephraim. So remember this Mormon who doesn't know any of the Jewish terms, the Hebrew terms. He's Jewish from the tribe of Ephraim as a Mormon, and obviously a bald, bloated boomer dude, right? White guy, Gen X white guy. But you know he's a Jewish tribe of Ephraim guy.
So when it says only Yahweh alone, he cannot be gods. So what's your objection?
Justin Martyr uses Genesis 19:24 to demonstrate another God subject to the Father.
Oh, yes. You want me to bounce you out of here? We'll get to Justin Martyr, and I'm going to use him to bear you, because I know what Justin Martyr says. I have the articles and sessions. Go to the Old Testament, New Testament. Show me your objection so I can further expose why Joseph Smith is in hell with his brother Muhammad. Give me your objection.
Which I'm using Justin Martyr's biblical verse, Genesis 19:24,
yes. Okay.
where Yahweh on earth calls down fire from Yahweh in heaven.
Do you know we use that passage to show the Trinity? Okay, so give me the verses to show me that Yahweh is more than one Yahweh, as opposed to showing me that you have a Yahweh on earth and a Yahweh in heaven, which is what we expect to find if that one Yahweh is not one person. Give me the verses. Because notice what he's quoting. Justin Martyr's dialogue with Trypho the Jew. Right there, by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Sam brings up the exact same point from Jake, the Muslim meta goober. Because this is repeated by Jake, the exact same argument the Muslim guy is making. That's why when I was talking about this Muslim guy, or this Mormon guy, I said this is exactly what Jake and Daniel Hakikachi said. It's the same thing that we addressed with Inspiring Philosophy.
Illuminating us, the light switch should go on. Wait, he's debating a Jew who thinks that God is only one person. He's debating a Jew who doesn't think Messiah is God in the flesh and rejects Jesus as a Messiah. So what do you think Justin Martyr is going to do? Justin Martyr is now going to convince the Jew from the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, that the God of Israel is not a single person. But the language he uses isn't meant to relay that there are separate gods. That's his misreading. The language of another God, another Lord, is Justin's way of affirming there's more than one divine person. We're not going to hold Justin Martyr accountable for using language which basically means the same thing as saying there's another divine person, when his point is to show Trypho that the God that appeared to your fathers wasn't the Father, but was this Jesus before he became man. So he's going to use language to affirm there's another divine person, which among the Jews, before, during, after time Christ, was called the second power. He is misreading Justin's language to imply that Justin thinks that Jesus is a separate, inferior God, when the language is meant to convey that the God of Israel is more than one person, but he's using language that may be different from the way we use it today to make the same point. The language he's using is meant to convey the same point when we to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that appeared to David, to Solomon, to Moses, and he's that Yahweh God that the psalmist prays.
Notice that this extended discussion after the interaction with the Mormon ends up referencing the theophanies, which the Thomists have all refuted themselves this week by denying that the angel of the Lord is Christ, even though Christ identifies himself as that very angel and the one who wrestled with Jacob. John 1 identifies the ladder as the Son of Man, the ladder to heaven. That's the ladder that Jacob sees when he wrestles the angel of the Lord. But Thomists, because of their following of St. Talmud Aquinas, cannot let that be the case because they follow a man over divine revelation.
something like a loud voice of a great crowd in heaven saying,